good morning, everyone. My name is Rebecca Shi, and I am the Executive Director of the American Business Immigration Coalition. ABIC is a bipartisan coalition of 1,200 CEOs and business associations across 15 states: Texas, Florida, Illinois, Wisconsin, North and South Carolina, Indiana, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, and Idaho. I really want to thank all of our co-sponsors and speakers today, and want to thank our ABIC co-chair and co-founder, Mr. John Rowe, whom you'll hear from shortly. We're thrilled to co-host this virtual town hall alongside American Hort, Dairymen's Association, and Dream.us. Today's summit brings together business, education, and civic leaders to urge Congress to move forward on 3 common sense immigration solutions: the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, the Bipartisan Durbin-Graham Dream Act, and Secure Act. Each of these will grow the economy, create jobs, and keep families together. For me, this is personal. My mother was undocumented with a final order of deportations for 19 years. My mom was a doctor in China. As an undocumented worker, my mom worked in Chinese restaurants, and the tips that she made put me through the University of Chicago. Today, my mother is a confident US citizen, and at the age of 65, she has returned to her medical profession, treating a range of illnesses like tumors and ulcers. My mom's example shows that when you legalize people who are contributing, you unleash their economic potential. No one knows this better than Mr. John Rowe, the co-chair and co-founder of the American Business Immigration Coalition. Mr. Rowe is the chairman emeritus of Exelon Corporation, a Fortune 100 company employing 34,000 people and serving over 10 million customers. Mr. and Mrs. Rowe care about undocumented immigrants, dreamers, because they know them. They provide scholarships for dreamers, and they personally have relationships with dreamers and their parents. It is my honor to introduce one of my heroes and a justice warrior, Mr. John Rowe.
You see, this is kind of like resurrection. Utility executives are not usually called justice warriors, so by doing this, I get this remarkable compliment. Actually, I have been working on immigration reform for more than a decade now. I was part of a Chicago Global Affairs Council study, and Becca's other fairy godfather, Josh Hoyt, called me and said, "John, we know you'll do this nice, quiet, respectable stuff. Well, will you actually go to work on getting legislation?" So I couldn't turn down the challenge. But in any event, we started in Illinois. We built a good coalition of for-profit businesses, corporations, family businesses, not-for-profit entities, including colleges and hospitals, the Restaurant Association, a very broad-based group. And our effort is to make both the economic and moral case for immigration reform. And by that, we mean some way of legalizing the undocumented, keeping them subject to the normal criminal laws like everybody else. We mean some way of making the immigration system for new people more generous, a way that protects both families and job requirements. And we need to dispel the notion that immigrants are simply people who take benefits. In my experience, they give a tremendous amount more than they take. And what's important about this meeting today in Indiana is that you have 2 Republican senators who are open-minded on these issues. They need to hear from Indiana business. They need to hear from Indiana voters. But I'll just go back to the personal side of it to end with. My wife and I used to sponsor 2 charter schools in Chicago. I would guess half of our Latino students were undocumented. All were frightened. And I'm pleased to say that we've had success getting a number of them through college. Two of my wife's favorite girls graduated from Illinois Tech and now just by accident, I'm sure, work at my old employer, Exelon. And we have found that in area after area, the hands and hearts of these immigrants are just essential. As I said it when we were getting people together, I grew up on a Wisconsin farm where we had all of 30 milk cows. I think that kind of dairy farm is long since gone. But I asked one of my cousins who staffs the big dairy farms in Wisconsin now. And his answer was immigrants, of course. Senator Rounds from South Dakota would give you the same answer on who staffs the poultry farms in South Dakota. We need these people economically. I now live in South Florida. I'm not convinced that anything would be green without immigrants, nor would there be people to work in our hospitals. So this is really important, both economically and morally. And I'm happy to be here with those of you from Indiana and cheering you on. If you can get these two senators committed, it would be a huge benefit. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rowe. I really appreciate your words here and for your time that you spent here today. I'd like to bring up Ms. Gabby Pacheco from the Dream.us to continue our program.
Thank you so much, James and Mr. Rowe, for your indefatigable support for this issue. And the Dream.us is the nation's largest college access and success program for dreamers. We believe that dreamers should have the opportunity to realize the American dream of obtaining a college education and contributing to the prosperity of our nation. Working with our partners, we have provided scholarships to highly motivated dreamers to help them pay for their college education. And we partner with over 70 colleges in 19 states and Washington, D.C., whose leaders are committed to addressing the barriers and challenges dreamers face in getting into and through college. We are working to help over 7,500 highly motivated dreamers graduate from college with career-ready degrees. And actually, approximately 1,700 undocumented students have already graduated, 1,600 with bachelor's degree after receiving our scholarship from the Dream.us. What's important to see is that recent data from the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration and the New American Economy estimates that 427,000 students in higher education are undocumented, and 181 of them of whom either are or eligible for DACA. The Center for American Progress estimates that 131,300 TPS holders and 202,500 DACA recipients are currently working in essential industries on the front lines of fighting against COVID-19 pandemic. Likewise, 76% of our working graduate scholars are currently employed in industries considered essential or frontline, and 72% of our graduates have immediate family working essential or frontline industries. Undocumented students need access to long-term protections and pathway to citizenship. Pathway to citizenship is useful not only for preserving family unity and pursuing an education, but also for obtaining professional or occupational licensures. According to our data, 57% of our current scholars and 21% of our graduates are pursuing jobs and careers that require licensures to practice, such as medical, legal, or engineering careers. Immigration reform will enable undocumented students like our next speaker, Sam Murillo, to study and work with a sense of stability and the ability to adjust status and eventually naturalize and become US citizen. And Sam is a 22-year-old cum laude graduate of Trinity Washington University. She was a member of Phi Beta Kappa and the president of the activities organization on campus. She was raised in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and her family is originally from Mexico. In high school, she graduated with a 4.5 GPA and was named top scholar athlete. She studied health services and is certified as a community health worker. She is one of the thousands of dreamers who is working to find systemic change in our immigration and judicial system through legislation and advocacy. Thank you, Sam, for using your voice and sharing with us your story today.
Thank you for that introduction, Gabby, and thank you to ABIC for inviting me to speak today. My name is Sam Murillo, and I am a DACA recipient. I first came to the United States when I was 7 years old. My parents came on a tourist visa and stayed after it expired. We came directly to Indiana, and I didn't leave Indiana until I started college. Growing up undocumented with the constant fear of deportation is a challenging experience. It's not something that my family ever discussed when I was growing up. It was just something that we all silently knew was our reality. I saw my friends in high school getting jobs, their driver's licenses, going on vacations outside the country, and nobody ever really explained to me why I couldn't do those things too. All of this changed when my family heard the news about the DACA program. At first, we were all really confused and uncertain, but my parents told me not to apply because they feared it might put our family at risk. But I applied and I was thankfully accepted. The program opened some doors for me, but so many doors like college remained closed due to the legislation in Indiana. I worked hard in high school. I was in the top 5% academically. I did sports, clubs, AP classes, and I did all the things that I was supposed to do to get into college. Then one day, I went to see my counselor to talk about applying for college. The first counselor told me, if you're undocumented, you can't go to college. So I went to another one. Essentially, I ended up seeing all 4 counselors at my high school who all told me that I shouldn't even bother with college because it would be a waste of time. I did not accept that for myself, so I went off on my own to apply. Without support from my counselors, and because I was the first in my family to go to college, I had to figure out the process all on my own, but I did it. I really wanted to go to school in Indiana, but I would have had to pay out-of-state tuition simply because of my legal status, even though I had lived in Indiana for more than 12 years. This was a very discouraging journey, and things started to add up for me since I did not qualify for federal student aid, again, because of my DACA status. I applied to every scholarship that I could possibly find, but many of them were restricted for US citizens and very few were targeted towards DACA recipients. I had all but given hope that I would ever go to college until I found out that I was accepted as a Dream.us scholar. This gave me the opportunity to get a degree at Trinity Washington University, but even in college, my options were limited. I could not study abroad or take advantage of all the resources and opportunities at my school. I am speaking to you today as the first college graduate in my family with a degree in health services and a certification as a community health worker. My dream is to work on global health and help provide healthcare services to underserved and undocumented communities like mine. The pandemic has affected everyone unexpectedly, and I want to make sure that there is equitable access to doctors and healthcare services amongst underserved communities. I want to close by asking Senators Braun and Young, my senators, the senators of the place that I call home, and the senators of the place where my younger brother resides and is now going through the same difficulties that I faced because of his status, like many other students, to work with your fellow senators to pass the DREAM Act and give me and hundreds of thousands like myself the chance to give back to the community, which is all that we've ever asked for. US citizens, Democrats, and Republicans overwhelmingly support the DREAM Act, and it's time that you listen to them and do the right thing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for the courage it takes to share your story, but also thank you for reminding us what this event is really all about. So I really appreciate your time. Up next, I'd like to introduce Gurinder Hall of the Indiana Immigrant Welcome Center to share a little bit more context about the immigrant communities in Indiana.
Thank you, James. I really appreciate this opportunity to shine a light on who are the immigrants in Indiana. I want to acknowledge that the data that I'm going to share is from the New American Economy Report. That is, the latest data is from 2018. As you know, demographic data does take some time to be compiled. So this data is from 2018. I'm not going to, go into a lot of details about who the immigrants are in central Indiana, but just shining a light on the impact that they have really in the local economy, which is the central Indiana economy that I'm talking about here. So this report specifically talks about that the immigrants are responsible for helping grow the economy, and they also as one of our speakers earlier said, make a significant impact in paying taxes. So in 2018, $1.2 billion, this is B with a billion, were paid by our immigrant neighbors in taxes. And they have a $3.3 billion in spending power. These are really important numbers because they are not small numbers for us to think about. And not only are the immigrant neighbors working to make sure that the economy engines are running, but they're also buying different products and also playing a big role in that. What kind of industries are these immigrant neighbors working in? So 14.3% of them work in tourism, 13.1% work in manufacturing, as well as wholesale trade. 11.9% of them are in transportation, and then 9.8% of them provide administrative support. Again, it is very key to note that 13.1% of them are in industries that the native-born Americans are not interested in working, such as manufacturing, such as wholesale trade. So the impact of the immigrant neighbors who are working in these industries, making sure that they're continuing is really, really important. Another important point for us to consider is that the immigrants are 27.5% more likely to be entrepreneurs. So again, they are not interested in taking anything from us. They actually are wanting to create their own businesses where they are able to stand on their own 2 feet and able to fulfill the dream that they have of making sure that their families and their children are able to have access to all the resources as any of those who were born here and brought up here. So I will close my remarks with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurinder, for reminding us of the great contributions that immigrants in Indiana are already making. Next up, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Obert, the Executive Director of Indiana Dairy Producers. Take it away, Steve.
Well, good morning, and I'm excited to be here and join the others on today's program, and it's a real privilege to represent the dairy farm families of Indiana on such an important and critical issue that they would deal with really on a daily basis. But so Indiana Dairy Producers, we like to say our members care for and take care of 70% of the dairy cows in Indiana. So we have a significant influence in representing their interest. And along with that, I bring, I guess, a lifetime of experience being owner and operator of a family dairy farm in Gibson County. My sons are the 6th generation of our family to farm here, and we milk about 1,200 cows. So not only do I represent the statewide industry, but also I have lived and experienced a lot of the challenges that come with getting our farm staffed and our team built. So let me give a little bit of context to our industry to just sort of provide scope on its significance to the statewide economy. We have about 784 grade A dairy farms in Indiana, which last year produced over 4.3 billion pounds of milk. And direct farm revenue was roughly $750 million. So, and I think it's important to point out that this revenue is generated in the most rural areas of our state. If our dairies are not competitive and we see them going out of business, it has a much greater impact on small towns such as Wheatfield or Johnson or Birdseye. And so, as we try to build up our rural communities, dairy provides significant economic activity in those areas to provide the services that are needed. Our dairy farms provide almost 20,000 jobs and almost 40,000 jobs are created indirectly just due to our Indiana farm family, our dairy farm families. The direct farm wages is roughly $700 million, and our dairy farms contribute nearly $400 million to the Indiana total tax contributions. So we have we play a significant role in the economic welfare of our state. And I will say this, that it is estimated that nearly of those 20,000 direct farm jobs, nearly 75% are being staffed by immigrant workers. So this is a very significant issue. I want to talk just a moment about what I would call the truths or the realities of this issue, because I think that unless we can agree on what is at the foundation of our challenges, we don't really have a foundation to build a framework of solutions on. And the first one I want to point out is that the Workforce Modernization Act is all about fixing something that was wrong 35 years ago. The H-2A program was initiated in 1986. And so it had limitations at the very outset. So this isn't an effort for an expansive new government program. This is all about going back and fixing what was wrong and broken really from the very start. And I think we need to ask our elected officials that, we realize that all legislation is probably never perfect or complete, especially over time. But there's only one thing worse than that, and that's the unwillingness of our representatives to make the efforts to try to make improvements so that it actually works for our communities and for our state and for our nation. Another truth that we all must agree on is that these employees pay taxes. They pay into Social Security, which they will never receive benefits from. So the rest of us owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude for those contributions that they make to our Social Security taxes. Another truth, that no employer that I know of wants to employ improperly documented workers. But there is a reality here that we have to have people on our farms, and a lot of these positions our other citizens are really unwilling to fill. So no one wants to have a system where we have improperly documented workers working for us. Another reality, this isn't about cheap labor. Many Indiana dairies pay 2 times the current minimum wage before performance bonuses and other benefits that they may be offering and their employees receive. So this has nothing to do with cheap labor. Another reality is most dairy farm families care deeply about their employees. They work with them hours on end every day, and they understand that the success of their farms really depends upon the well-being of their employees. And so this is one of the truths why Indiana Dairy Producers Organization supports the Dream Act. It's interesting to me that some polling shows that 75% of the US citizens support the basics of some sort of permanent Dream Act. And Republicans support this legislation by nearly 70%. And so it begs the question is what are we waiting for? What's the issue here? The American citizens all agree on what is right. And all we need is for our elected officials to represent the interests and the desires of our citizenship, our citizens. So what are some of the implications of what I would call this broken system? Well, on Indiana dairy farms, it impacts our ability to provide proper care and well-being to our animals. We need well-trained, experienced, skilled people on our farms. You just can't put anyone into a maternity area or in a nursery area and expect them to have intimate understanding and knowledge of what they need to be doing. So we need to have a stable workforce on our farms. The other thing is just worker safety is a concern. You know, dairy cows weigh in excess of 1,500 pounds, so inexpensive workers must be trained on the proper animal handling and equipment operating techniques. Training and experience helps ensure safety of the employee as well as the animals. Another implication is the competitiveness of our farms depends on a workforce that is experienced, trained, and skilled. It's difficult to build an excellent workplace culture when proper training and employment longevity is inadequate. Another implication, it steals the communities of the energy and the vibrancy that these workers and their families can offer. Many supporting businesses rely on immigrant workforce, such as custom harvesting and waste management services. So when they lack well-trained, experienced workers, this has a huge impact on the competitiveness and the success of our family dairy farm businesses in Indiana. And then finally, I just want to point out that I know for many citizens, they're concerned about, well, okay, we do this legislation, we pass it, and then 10 or 15 or 20 years, we're back discussing the same problems concerning undocumented workers. Well, Title III of the Workforce Modernization Act requires mandatory E-Verify. So it is the intention that this would help provide assurances that the issue of undocumented workers wouldn't reemerge in the future. So again, I appreciate the efforts that is being made here this morning, and want to urge our senators to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. We're really grateful to have your perspective talking about the dairy farmers in Indiana. But we also know that it's not just the dairy farmers, right? It's throughout all of agriculture that are struggling with a lot of the same things. So up next, I'd like to bring in a grower, Brady Musen of Musen Brothers Farms, to go ahead and share a little bit about his experience.
Thank you, James. So as James mentioned, I'm Brady Musen. I'm a fourth generation farmer from Southwest Indiana. I was born and raised on the farm, worked it my entire life, took a quick hiatus to go study and graduate from Indiana University. And since 2016, I've been back on the farm with my brothers and my family, working full time. My great-grandfather founded the farm in 1935. He farmed for a local orphanage. And when that went out of business, he expanded into different fruits and vegetables and livestock. And we've just continued to grow since then. That original 35-acre plot has grown to more than 12,000 acres that we farm today. A large majority of that is produce. I know a lot of times in the Midwest, the emphasis is on our row crops, but it needs to be stated that there is a large economic foothold in the produce industry in Indiana. Amongst those 12,000 acres, we grow a variety of fruits and vegetables, including watermelon, cantaloupe, sweet corn, pumpkin, squash, et cetera, but all of those are extremely labor intensive. They're almost entirely hand planted, hand maintenance, and hand harvested. In peak season, we will have north of 500 employees on our farm. 95% of those are migrant workers. We just simply do not have the numbers in our small town community to kind of fill that demand, especially when it's only a seasonal position. So we do, again, rely heavily on our migrant workforce, which can be extremely unpredictable and uncertain. We have, similar to Steve, been involved in the H-2A program for we've been involved for 5 years now. It's provided us some stability. It's provided us some certainty, but there's absolutely a lot of issues that we deal with still, even while using that program. Steve touched on a lot of them. He did a fantastic job in doing so, but there are a few things I want to reiterate. We are farmers. We're not necessarily set up, a lot of us, to take on the massive administrative undertaking that comes along with the H-2A program. There's loads and loads of paperwork. We have to be extremely diligent in making sure that everything is filed and filled correctly and in a timely manner in order to get the amount of workers we need to our farm and on time. In the perishable crop industry, a 2-week delay can mean a disaster year for our farm. We get behind 2 weeks and we just can't ever catch up. So this ability to streamline the administrative process that gets the workers to our farm is massively important. Another thing in the H2A program that we struggle with is the unpredictability of the rule structure and payment increases. So as Steve mentioned, through this program, we do pay over double the current minimum wage, and we're happy to. But the unpredictability of what will we be required to pay every year makes it tough for us to budget. A lot of times we have our contracts set up with Kroger's and Walmart and Costco and Meijer, and have our pricing mapped out before we notice a sometimes 10% increase in our wage rate that will be following for the H2A program for that year. So the uncertainty that comes along with our workforce and where it's coming from and what we're going to have to deal with in terms of challenges during that year makes it extremely tough on us. And in this industry, if we don't secure a workforce and we have a year where that lapses, it's not just a bad year, it's the demise of a business that's been around since 1935 with my great-grandfather. So we urge Senator Braun and Senator Young to please support not only this effort, but any bipartisan effort that will secure a stable and reliable workforce for our industry. And also we would urge you that if you want to come see the economic impact that the produce industry has on our state, and if you want to see the reliability and dynamic that we have going with our migrant workforce, to please come visit our farm in Vincennes, Indiana. We'll be in full production from now until late September. So again, please support this bipartisan effort. A large industry in Indiana, it relies on it. So thank you for your time. I appreciate being allowed to speak on behalf of our produce industry.
Thank you so much, Brady. I appreciate your input as well. I'd like to introduce Mr. John Wolski, another type of grower, landscape and nursery owner. Mr. Wolski, if you could turn on your camera here.
Right.
There you are. The floor is yours, sir.
Very good. Hi, my name is John Wolski. I'm the president of Ski Landscape Company in Minneapolis. Also have a small operation, a tree growing operation. I started the business in the late 70s, and I used to cut grass. We still cut grass today. We also do landscape installation, snow removal services. The program we use, the sister program to H2A, is H2B. Currently, we have 30 H2B employees come up from the same city in Mexico. We pay them $21 per hour. The H2B program is fraught with a lot of risk also, just like the H2A program. We don't know if we're getting these people.
John, can you speak closer to the microphone?
I'm
It's
sorry.
a little hard to hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, we use the H2B program, and we're not sure if we get our manpower. It's fraught with all kinds of risk, and we're not sure if we're going to get them until they actually step off the bus into our shop. I have other peers in the industry that have not gotten their H2B employees, and it almost wrecks the company. Being a seasonal company like Landscape, we have so much trouble it's just near impossible to hire local citizens. Currently we have 20 full-time employees. And I'm sorry, that's not correct. We have 30 full-time employees and 30 H-2B. We started using the H-2B program in 2003. If it does not come through for us, it's just our company, we talk about how to shrink the company, what customers that we are, basically how to shrink the company and who are we going to eliminate as customers because we could never deliver the quality service that we need. Years ago when I started the business, there's a lot more hands-on employees available in America. That was back in the 80s. And at this point, there are just not as many hands-on employees out there. The day of the farm has kind of gone away. And, so it's just near impossible to hire them. I've been to Washington, D.C. 3 times now and lobbied our different senators, Braun and Young, and also our Congress people. I've done it 3 different times, and our system works. It just needs to be adjusted. So I'm just gonna basically notes here. I'm urging Senator Braun and Young to help us out with the Farm Modernization Act and also the H-2B program. It's essential for hands-on business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolski. And it also is a problem not just for agriculture, but other industries throughout Indiana's economy as well. So next up, I'd like to introduce Mr. Patrick Tam, the President and CEO of the Indiana Restaurant and Lodging Association. Patrick, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, James. Patrick Tam on behalf of the Indiana Restaurant and Lodging Association. Well, many people hear about our workforce challenges today, the importance of immigration, the importance of not kicking the can down the road again and again and again on immigration and visa issues is not a new issue for us. It is not an issue that has arisen recently. It's been one that's been decades in making. We are proud to be a significant majority minority employer, and also in many cases, our owners, our decision makers, our leaders are, and proudly so, immigrants. Immigrants bring their culture, their heritage, their food, their recipes, their ingredients. Americans enjoy those and frankly are some of the dominant choices in our restaurants across not just the state of Indiana, but also countries. It also makes our cities a much more attractive and quality place for people to live. Earlier, you heard some great statistics from Gurinder. You heard some very important issues from Steve Obert from the Indiana Dairy Producers, and also from Brady in terms of his farm. Those issues are real. Those issues also impact restaurants and hotels. If a picker, a producer of produce cannot get product because their visas are held up, that impacts you at a grocery store, that impacts you at a restaurant, it impacts what we can offer on a menu. Those things are all interconnected by our valuable partners on the farm, our valuable partners that may have issues. I get a weekly report on longshoreman activity on what shipping containers are out in oceans. All these issues are interconnected and interrelated. You heard very importantly, and don't overlook this, Steve talked about earlier that this is an issue that is 35 years in the making. I am 47 years old. The majority of my life, that issue has been kicked down the can. We're not talking about a new issue. We're talking about modernizing, improving a visa situation that has been kicked down the can for 35 years. One of our most recent Republican presidents, his biggest regret of his presidency is immigration and not getting immigration done right. It's time to support some common sense bipartisan improvements that improve not just the lives of those directly impacted, but it also improves your lives as a consumer, as a resident, and as by a good, honest, hardworking Americans that we all are, as people try to pursue the true American dream of providing for their families in the best economy in the world. At the same time, restaurants will continue to flourish because right now, if we improve our ability to hire and continue to diversify our workforce, our economic recovery from the last soon to be 16 months will be quicker and will be more efficient for all. At the same time, you have multiple legislative proposals, which you've heard people call for earlier. The Indiana Restaurant and Lodging Association wholeheartedly supports those efforts and have done so for quite some time and will continue to do so until common sense immigration reform, common sense improvements in visas is fully implemented and we keep up with the needs and also we improve our economy and improve our future leaders, not just in the hospitality sector, but also in science, biology, and all sorts of leading technologies that immigrants continue time and time and time again to show entrepreneurship, which Gurinder shared with you earlier, with regards to immigrants' willingness, desire to be true risk takers and true entrepreneurs in every business sector in America. Our future leaders, our future decision makers and community investors that really grow our communities here in the state of Indiana. We're proud of them and we want and we need more and have a good solid path to citizenship as well. Thank you for the opportunity to join this great group and this very important message on a business front as well as a moral front as well. Thank you.
Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. We really value your time here. I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Alfonso Vidal. He is not only an employer that hires immigrants and is struggling with labor as well, but he is also someone who has lived through the process as well as an immigrant from Venezuela. So please, Alfonso, share your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. One of the things I want to say, I put this picture here exactly because of what Patrick was saying. We've been working for a long time on all these of immigration, specifically with the Dream Act. That's Richard Lugar, and we were back in 2007. It was a national Hispanic leadership summit back in Washington, still trying to get this done. And it was already old back then. So wanted to reiterate what Patrick was saying. But like you said already, I mean, my name is Alfonso Vidal, and I came to this country, came to Evansville, Indiana, seeking a safe place to establish myself and my family after I was released from 11 days of kidnapped by Colombian guerrillas back in 1997. My wife, Daniela, and I met in college back in our native country of Venezuela. We are two bilingual engineers with master's degrees. We chose Evansville as our home. We love this country. We love Evansville. We love the Hoosier State. It was the right time at the right place for us. We have been blessed with many opportunities in this country. Evansville is really a community that embraced us and as really one of their own. Since 1997, we were proud adopted Hoosiers. But in 2013, in a very emotional spring day, we became proud American citizens. It was not an easy process. We came here under a tourist visa. Then we decided to stay, and we finished our education under our visas, our student visas. Then socialism took over our home country of Venezuela, And we knew that it was going to be hard to stay away from our families. But we wanted to give a different path, a different opportunity for our kids, for our family. And we decided to give that opportunity to our next generation in this wonderful country. We decided to stay and make our home in Evansville. We were attracted by the wonderful Hoosier hospitality, the wonderful family values of Southwest Indiana, and the opportunities to grow professionally. It was not easy, really. I mean, it was not easy. We spent many thousands of dollars, many uncertain times, and much stress trying to stabilize our immigration status. And we've done it legally all the way. But we preserve. And in 2013, we were awarded with the prize of what we worked so hard, the American citizen, right? We work hard, absolutely. But many have not been as lucky as we, but my wife and I. We had a path to a stable life. We had a path to the prize. We had a path to citizenship because of our technical degrees. But many others are not as lucky as we were. They can work hard, but they're not as lucky as having that path to a regular immigrant status that would take them to citizenship. I now own, after many years of hard work, I now own Vidal Plastics, and we're a custom compounder of resins, and we supply raw material plastics to the injection molding industry. With our materials, they make plastic parts for many industries. My company employs many people. We support families through those employees. We all have children that grow up to be valued citizens, really. We're growing and expanding right here in the heartland of our country. My wife, Daniela, she's a chemical engineer, but she's been described as a chemical engineer that says in colors. She's the chancellor of ABIC in the Evansville campus. She took over the job 1 week before the pandemic shut down. It was tough, but she loves the job and her team loves her. Her leadership has inspired many in the Latino community as well. We're both very involved at every level, really, locally, regionally, statewide, politically, and community-wide. We have been part of many boards and statewide commissions to offer a little bit of what we got when we came here. You know, we felt the need to give back to this wonderful community that allowed us to stay and to grow our family. We love being part of this community and make the difference. And I'm sure that many immigrants, in fact, I know that many immigrants feel exactly the same way. We love where we are. We love our children to be born in these communities that we can make such a difference, you know. And we are, if we are given an opportunity, we contribute to the economy. We make a difference, and that's why we support, and we have always supported the Dream Act. We support also the Secure Act. It is important to make it happen. My wife and I, were not only the embodiment of the American dream, but also the embodiment of what the immigrant community can do in this country. But I'm not saying anything new, like we have been saying all along. We're not only the only immigrants here. Immigration has fueled the growth of this country, innovation, investment, entrepreneurship, since the inception of this country. But I think we are at a crossroads. Whether we can choose to continue to add to the necessary fuel to our society, or cut off the fuel supply. It is time to put our heads together to resolve our differences. I understand that there are differences and there are concerns. It is time to come together to give others the necessary path to greatness, the path to innovate, the path to invest, the path to growth, the path to American citizenship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alfonso, for sharing your story and for sharing about your experience coming to the United States and about the labor struggles that you now experience today as an employer. I would like to once again invite up Mr. John Rowe to finish off our program here.
Thank you. I think I'm back on the video. First, thank you, everybody. Second, all of you are the ones who make the difference here. Senator Brown, Senator Young want to hear from folks like you. I can assure you they've heard from me enough times. Third, Becca and her team will make certain that the videotapes of this get to the senators. So to the extent they're willing, they'll see your remarks. But what really makes the difference are phone calls and visits. Try to catch them when they're in Indiana if you can. Some of you go to Washington if you can. The more they see the kind of people that are on this phone, the more they realize that immigration reform is not just about the immigrants, it's about all of us. It's about our businesses. It's about our sense of common decency. It's about keeping our country together. So please, if you can think of something to do, do it. Don't ask twice whether it's a good idea, just do it. And thanks so much. You're the ones who make the difference.